Grassed up, young farmer George Lawrence is showing us how to harvest turf. And then we head north where Seaweed Dave is chewing the cud with our Canny Crofter Naill.
Will I ever recover from being caught soil sniffing?
And we have Andy Crow bringing in the harvest.
We could be quids in.
That's the gamble.
Oh, that's farming.
I'm Charlotte Ashley and welcome to Farming Britain.
This farm near Clacton on Sea grows spuds, wheat, barley and lawns. All crops require specialist kit, but then there's the super specialist stuff. This machine is from the States and is lifting turf rolls that will end up making new builds look like home, landscaping on a grand scale or just fixing a bald patch. We'll come back to the cutting in a bit. First, we've been invited here by George Lawrence, a young farmer who's about to fertilise the grass being grown on the other side of the farm. Creating such a uniform product takes a huge amount of ground preparation.
So basically the aim of the game of the turf is when we're planting it is to get the field as flat as possible. So we'll generally subsoil the field, then I'll plough it, run over with what we call a culture press, go over it 2-3 times, maybe even 4 times, harrow it, and then we'll stone bury it and then drill it. So quite a lot goes into the turf. But once it's in, it's in. All you got to do is sort of fertilise it, mow it and make sure it doesn't die.
While George finishes his fertilising rounds, we have a chat with farm manager James about the wonderful world of spuds.
My biggest issue is when supermarkets are supplying a general white potato to the general person trying to cook, and then they moan it doesn't mash or it doesn't roast, because there's so many different varieties, there's so many different characteristics, and you've got to match each one, and that's why the supermarkets, in my eyes, just get it wrong so often.
That's true though, because you see a white potato.
Yeah.
That's so rubbish, isn't it?
You can buy a white or a red, and it's just like, well, are you trying to fry that? Are you trying to chip it? Are you trying to mash it? Are you trying to roast it? There's so many different characteristics to a potato, and that's what they just don't understand.
Okay, but you mix and match. How many different types have you got, do you say?
Yeah, so we mix and match this year, I believe, well, off the top of my head, we've got 8 or 9 different varieties. Again, early chippings are probably 25% of our area.
Right, we say early chippings, what's that?
So early chipping is chipping potatoes that we're lifting in July, August, loose skins. They're not been set skin, they're not been stored.
Oh my God, it's super complicated now.
So fluffy potatoes, when you see a potato in the supermarket and it's got a loose skin, it's got a fluffy skin, it's been lifted probably within 4 to 8 hours and straight into the supermarket shelf, or for us, straight into a chip shop. So it hasn't been stored in any way, shape or form. So it hasn't, basically what's happened is we've lifted that crop when it's green and it hasn't been killed down and then the skins have been left to harden basically.
Right.
Yeah, and then, so yeah.
So how would I tell the difference between those two types of potato? When you say about the skin, what do you mean by the skin?
So basically, if you're buying a potato in the supermarket after October, it's going to be a set skin potato. So the skins it's been left in the field, it's been topped, left to basically naturally die off, and then left for 3 to 4 weeks, and then the skins go hard, and then that potato will then store right through till June, July time, if it's stored correctly at the right temperature. That is a set skin potato, and it's just purely for storage, but it can be any variety, so any variety will store, so it just depends on it's been left in the field to set the skin. When we're lifting early chipping varieties, we don't set the skins, so literally they're just lifted green top and they're going straight into the supermarket. We know they're going to be used straight away, or the chip shop. Yeah.
So how obvious would you be able to tell the difference between one that's been lifted early and one that's been left there?
If you got the skin and rubbed it, the skin would stay on.
Okay, so that's been left in the soil?
That's been left in the soil for the skin to stay on and harden. If you get your hand and you rub it and it comes off, it's a loose skin potato. It's probably been harvested green top, or within a couple of weeks have been flailed, and then that won't store for very long at all. So it needs to be used straight away. It's all for storage basically. And a fluffy skin won't store. It will store for 2 or 3 days and then will start to go a bit rubbery. Whereas a set skin potato will store for 6 weeks, 8 weeks at home on your own, or for us in the industry, 8-9 months. So,
wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
There's a lot to potatoes.
Back to the turf, and to start the harvest, the machine needs a co-pilot.
Because there's so much going on and so much to look at, we have someone else in the cab to help steer straight. Then once that first straight line's been put in, there's a guide at the front that comes down, which is then basically the GPS for the machine, so then after that it steers itself. But because obviously there's so much going on and so much to look at, you have to have someone help you steer, otherwise you just end up all over the place. On a good field with a good long run, we can do about 800 rolls an hour. Obviously we lift everything to order, but generally lifting between 2,000 to 4,000 at the start of the week. Then obviously Thursday, Fridays are slightly quieter. Sometimes they can be quite busy. Obviously coming into the weekend, they generally get quite quiet, and then it all starts again Sunday and keeps on turning over basically.
You'd think that all that turf removal would eat away at the soil at the same time. Apparently not.
A lot of people will think sort of after a couple of years you'll be stepping into a hole, but you hardly take anything off, and I say most of that is all root anyway. You pull that apart, it's all root. There's only really a thin layer of soil on that, because we're not after the soil, we want the root. So essentially you don't actually take that much of the field away.
You haven't got an artificial lawn at home then?
Part of my garden is actually artificial.
No, you're joking.
Yeah. Yeah, just get some proper turf.
Honestly, I just thought I'd throw it in there, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that, but there we go.
Thank you, George. Next up, Farming Britain News.
This is Farming Britain News. More farmers are putting their land up for sale, with some leaving the industry following the closure of the basic payment scheme. That's the conclusion of research by Savills. It says Scotland led the way in farmland for sale in the first half of 2024, with the South West in second place and the North in third. Other land agents take a more even view. The farmland market was steady but active in the second quarter of the year, says Carter Jonas, while Knight Frank describes it as stable. Carter Jonas reports an uplift in supply, but adds that the market is well balanced. The average arable land price rose 1.6% year on year to just under £10,000 per acre. The average pasture land price was up 2% at £7,800 per acre. The summer has seen a series of campaigns to remind farmers not to kill themselves, either by accident or on purpose. The Yellow Wellies charity, which supports the physical and mental well-being of farmers across the UK, held a hashtag Farm Safety Week in July. Meanwhile, Jeremy Clarkson gave a shout out to mental health charity Shout.
And you'll get free confidential support from a very experienced team of people at an organisation called Shout. It's got to be worth it, better than suffering in silence.
Despite evidence that the badger cull works, DEFRA is selling alternatives and is using a pop star to help. The new Labour government plans to roll out a bovine TB eradication package that includes vaccination, herd management and biosecurity measures in order to end the badger cull. In a new documentary fronted by Queen guitarist and wildlife activist Brian May, the BBC claims to have found a workable prevention measure for bovine TB that does not include killing badgers. It will air on Friday the 23rd of August 2024 at 9 PM on BBC Two. To underline the new initiative to make the badger cull history, the Badger Trust is mounting a legal challenge against the granting of new culling licences. The charity argues Natural England ignored the advice of its own scientific experts in allowing the measure to go ahead in areas including Dorset, Wiltshire and Oxfordshire. The European Commission may have to ban livestock farming across the continent. Organisers of the Stop Cruelty, Stop Slaughter campaign have 6 months from the end of September 2024 to collect at least 1 million statements of support for progressively closing all livestock farms after the European Commission registered their campaign as a new European Citizens Initiative. The European Commission can be invited to propose legal acts if a registered initiative is supported by at least 1 million citizens from at least 7 EU member states. And finally, the shadow DEFRA secretary is complaining that he's got nothing to complain about. In an interview in the Carter Jonas Game Fair Theatre at the end of July 2024, Steve Barclay said his big problem is that the Labour government has said so little about its plans for food and farming, he can't kick back against it.
So I think we've got to wait and see, but nothing really in the King's speech, virtually nothing in the manifesto, concerns on the budget, and concerns with the direction of travel. And I think we've just got to wait and see what they actually set out.
And you can watch the whole of that chat with Steve Barclay by following the link below. You are now to date with Farming Britain News.
Thank you, David. And next up, our Canny Crofter Naill is looking for ways to improve his grazing.
Dave Seaweed Edwards likes to get stuck into his work. It's May and he's come to see our Canny Crofter Naill Roundtree, who's an hour north of Inverness, to assess his pasture and silage fields. Dave's initial lab analysis of the soil from here has shown it to be pretty lifeless, probably because of historic overgrazing and cropping for winter feed.
To me it smells absolutely, like it said on the microscope, lifeless.
Naill wants to stop the cycle of decline and explore new ideas.
My kind of vision and the family's vision for our croft is that we produce healthy, local, sustainable food. But this whole journey starts with the health of the ground. And if the ground's in good heart, whatever's on it's going to be in good heart. So the croft here, I have a feeling, I could be wrong, that it hasn't had an awful lot put back into it in the last sort of 10 years. It's been grazed pretty hard by sheep and there's been a crop of silage taken off it. I felt the number of bales that we got off it last year wasn't enough. It certainly didn't go anywhere near what I need for winter keep for my cattle and for the deer when they're here. So we're looking for an alternative. Now, to me, I'm interested in some of the stuff you've been looking at, because on the west coast in the spring of the year when stags are growing antler, and typically, you know, it's one of the fastest growing bones known to man, so it's growing at a rate of 2.5 centimetres a day at this time of year. They're desperate for minerals, and I was aware that when they were looking for minerals, they would go to the sea. Very often in big tides, you would see the deer 200 and 300 yards out feeding on seaweed. So, jumping the story forward, I don't want to use nitrogen fertilisers. I want to use fertilisers that are produced as close to home as possible, and I don't want to put anything onto the fields, that, particularly because we're a little salmon river at the bottom of the croft, that makes its way into the river, and it's not good for the environment. So the natural journey for me was to look at something else. But I'm not an expert on it, but I'm hoping to meet one soon. And
he's waiting in the wings. He's waiting in the wings.
Yeah, and I've spoken to other people. I wouldn't name other brands, but there are people out there that have told me you apply a liquid and it's the Garden of Eden overnight. And from what I've listened to, I want someone that understands what I'm trying to do and knows the subject intimately. And I think the whole thing is, when you don't know, be brave enough to ask. So what I've done there, I harrowed that over.
Time for that soil smelling and grass chewing. Dave has developed a nose and palate for these type of things and starts thinking like a grazer.
I'm smelling now, there's a little acidy smell.
David, just to help me get my head around this, I didn't expect you to take a big handful of soil and smell it and taste it. Why? Why are you doing it? What can you detect from that?
It's having the juiciness of the grass. It needs to be quite juicy, so you can, you've got a nice sweet sugary taste into your mouth off it. Whereas there basically isn't in this at all. You didn't try any, did you?
No.
So,
I'm not.
Hands and knees, or you just want to bend down and pick a little
I'm
bit?
not about to start grazing the field. I've limited grass as it is. I don't want to compete with the cattle myself.
Like I say, it is very important to be able to just taste it and see that it is right. Because if it tastes bad to you, it's going to taste bad or even worse to the animals. They are so sensitive, it's going to taste worse to them. And that is why you said to me earlier today that the deer don't come and eat on these fields, and they'll eat on maybe one over the road or whatever. Well, they know that this is not palatable. This is not palatable grass. And if it's not palatable now, even if you put it into your silage and stuff, it's still not going to be really palatable. We've got to sweeten this grass up, we've got to change it.
Okay.
The apparent lack of oxygen in the soil can be solved with an aerator, but then it also needs life support. This will be done using Dave's specially formulated liquid seaweed, working with nitrogen fixing bacteria.
That will give you enough nitrogen for your grass for up to 9 months with one application. So you have 20 acres worth of nitrogen in there, and that's like half an Arctic load.
Yes, it's a bit different than what I've seen that amount of nitrogen in before.
Yeah, I don't see any issue of improving that dramatically, and we can do that stage at a time. It isn't going to happen overnight. When you've got something that has taken maybe 50 years to destruct, you can't turn it back because we're dealing with nature. You cannot turn it back overnight, whatever. There's no way. You know, to get that nutrition back in the soil and get it all there and get all the life there and everything working, it's just going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, it's definitely possible. I don't see a problem with it.
Okay.
And I like the challenge.
As Dave suggests, the results he expects to achieve won't be seen overnight. But next time, we'll assess how Naill's fields are progressing. If you'd like to find out more about Dave's seaweed products for every type of grower, go to ukseaweedfertiliser.co.uk.
Seaweed, that sounds like a really cool idea. We might have to give that a go. So next up, Andy Crow is behind the wheel of his combine.
There's more to a harvest than meets the eye. Farm manager Andy Crow is just about to finish cutting one of his wheat fields, but he saved the worst till last. Some of it is ripe and some isn't, which is a problem. Too much moisture in the crop could cause a fire because microbes can flourish, generating heat.
These ears are necked over, so that's right. But then you come down in the bottoms, you've got some of these secondary tillers coming up through, like there. There's two there, look.
What do you mean by that, Andy?
These are the tillers that have come later on out of the plant, and as you can see, they're green. So thrash that out. I have a job to thrash it out, but the combine will thrash it out. See, and that's green. But you get that, if you get that lump like that, there's so much moisture in it, that'll heat up. But there's enough grain in amongst this. If you mix the two up, it'll sort itself out at the time the combine's thrashed it all out.
So what you've just done with your palms then is pretty much what a combine does?
It is, yeah. Yeah, but that'll go on the drying floor once that's gone through. That'll go.
Is that floor heated, or is it just?
It can be heated. We had 150 tonne of barley from the farm next door. They had some barley that had the same trouble. They cut the barley was ready, and then they had green wheat in amongst it.
Luckily, Andy has dryers powered by solar and straw to sort it out.
It does all the heating for the houses. Every year we have big problems with deer, but our biggest problem this year is badgers. Up the top of the hill and some of the fields up there, it's like that little bit there, that's badgers where they just come in here and pull it down.
That gap there?
Yeah. But up the top of the hill we got areas there, it's probably an acre, 2 acres, just in one lump, where the badgers have just come in and taken it down. But most predators that we have problems with, vermin and that, crows, whether it's crows, pigeons, foxes, whatever, we can do something about it. But the one thing we can't do anything about is the bloody badgers.
With the last of the crop in the trailer, Andy explains what sort of money he can expect from his wheat this year.
I'll get in. There's about 3 tonne in here. If it doesn't make milling, it'll probably be worth about, at present price, about 190 a tonne. If it does make milling, you can stick at least another 60 to 70 pound a tonne on top of that. But it all depends on what everyone else has got. All the reports I'm getting at the moment from other people, from other farmers, they're not getting very good samples. All pinch stuff where it hasn't had the sunshine at the right time. It's had the wrong weather, so if everyone's in the same boat, we could be quids in.
That's the gamble.
Oh, that's farming. And I'm not a very good gambler.
Back to the farm, and Andy explains how his industrial hairdryer works. The heat is generated by the burner, specifically designed to take straw bales.
It's a Farm 2000, has round bale straw, don't pack them too tight otherwise they burn too slow. The centres are soft so that we light the centre, the fan blows it's got a fan in there, the fan blows the air straight through the middle burns out, collapses, and away it goes. And that all the water goes into, we've got 2 header tanks there. And then we've got the pumps as well. It's running 2 pumps now.
That's all it needs.
That's all it needs.
Don't need little firelighters.
Don't need firelighters, not in this job. This is a drying floor. We've got the tunnel, the hot air or cool air comes through there, comes up through vents in the floor, can open and shut it all the way down. At the moment we're just drying a little batch at the back. The moisture meter said it was averaging between 14.5. It did go up to 15, there was a couple just over 15. It'd probably blend in, but what's the point of taking a chance? The electricity comes off of the solar panels, so we're not paying for that. We don't pay for the heat, but this at the moment is just getting cool air. That'll dry that. So we've got 2 floors that we do the drying. If we fill them up to this level here, that takes that'll take 150 tonne to there, 300 tonne up to the top. This is the sort of level I like to keep it at to dry it. It dries a lot quicker then, instead of going right up. So that's why it's at that level coming back. This is the level I'll bring it back. We can put up to 300 in if we fill it up to level, but that's about as far as we go. So the fan's up the back. Now have a look at that. The fan comes, blows it down here, the air can't get out, so it's got to go somewhere. It'll go out the vents and away.
Gosh, it'd be expensive if you didn't have your own sustainable...
I don't know how people manage this. It's like next door, the farm next door, they're struggling because they have to send it away to be dried, and well, there's your profit. As soon as you start sending it away to be dried, it's a haulage away to get it dried and then the storage. So instead of storing it on farm, like we can, if we get anything that we're a bit doubtful about, we just stick it on here. There's madness not to, really. Sometimes, like a couple of years ago when it was really, really hot, it was so hot the corn was, it was hot to touch. You put it in the store and it won't cool down. So what we did, we just shoved it on the floor and just blew it through the night, blew cool air through it through the night just to cool it down, and just rushed it out in the morning with the JCB and put it in the store. But it was cooled down. But if you put it in the store hot, it gives the engine tears.
We leave Andy as he enters the next phase of his year, planting winter rape.
Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to find us on all social media channels. Like, share, subscribe. Love you long time. See you next time. Hi, I'm Charlotte Ashley. Did you see it? There it is! Did you see it? There it is! Not like that, you can't. It's there! Yes, got it. Right, okay. The actual grasshopper. Doing this just to annoy him. Yeah, do a lyric and like sang. I'm sorry, I'm the most annoying person in the world. Right, okay, I've forgotten what we were talking about. Thank you. Yeah. And next up, here's this time. No, wait, so that's crap. Sorry. Sorry. Wait, I need to get in my head. No, it's not this week's. Right, wait. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. It sounds very official. Find us on all social media platforms, and I don't know what the hell that was. Yeah, there's no ending, David. There's no ending.